Welcome to the National Kidney Registry's 9th Annual Awards Gala.
I have the honor of presenting the Terasaki Award. If you don't know Paul Terasaki, he's worth Googling. And you know what? These are teleprompters. That's interesting. I always thought when I was watching the presidential elections, these were like to protect the bullets from the... I've never been in a situation where it's like, the Terasaki Medical Innovation Award is given to an individual or organization that has invented, developed, or created breakthroughs in technologies and transplantation. Like, you know what? Look, to heck with the teleprompter. Paul Terasaki, we lost him last year. And for those of you who don't know Paul Terasaki, he was one of the greats. Basically, there wouldn't be transplant if it wasn't for Paul Terasaki because he did the cross-match test. He also did HLA typing, which many are aware of. And HLA typing is not just important for a transplant, it's also important for if you're watching like the Maury Povich show and you're wondering like who the father is. When they're like, who's the father, that's HLA typing. Anyway, I was fortunate enough to know Paul Terasaki, and he also started the UCLA Kidney Transplant Registry that eventually became UNOS, which some of you may have heard of UNOS, and then he also really fell in love with the National Kidney Registry because they shipped living donor kidneys, and Paul Terasaki always thought it was fine to ship living donor kidneys. In fact, he shipped mammalian dog kidneys years ago. He shipped it from LA to Tel Aviv to London to Sydney, and he would put these kidneys on like 60 hours of cold ischemia time and they would work just fine. And so him and I, hung out a little bit because I wanted to ship living donor kidneys through NKR, and Paul Terasaki won the NKR Innovation Award in, I think it was 2010, and he came to this whatever this is, it's very good. And he accepted the award. And he was a real innovator, and so it's appropriate. But he would be very proud. He died last year, and he'd be very proud to know that the National Kidney Registry has shipped, it's probably 1,500 or 1,600 living donor kidneys, and that was always what he wanted to do. And unfortunately, he had a lot of pushback, but it's great that the NKR is doing it. I was always impressed by Paul Terasaki because he was very humble. When he would meet with me, he would want to just hang out at the hospital cafeteria, or one time we hung out at Dairy Queen. And if you knew Paul Terasaki, he sold his company, One Lambda, for $900 million. And so the fact he was very humble was great. And Mike Cheka actually has a story about Paul Terasaki that I love. By the way, I'm going off the teleprompter. I'm not paying much attention to the this is the Paul Terasaki Award, and unfortunately he passed last year, so I feel like we need to have one Paul Terasaki story. And he has Mike Cheka told me the greatest Paul Terasaki story. When Paul Terasaki is one of these guys like Einstein, like he's just caught up in making innovations and in his work and in HLA and all this kind of thing. He didn't really care too much about money or anything, but he fell into quite a bit of money when he sold his company for $900 million. So he apparently he was driving like a Honda around for like 20 years, and then he told his assistant, just buy me the best car. And so his assistant came back and bought him a fantastic loaded Bentley. And so Paul would meet me at like Dairy Queen, and I knew he would arrive because he'd be in this fantastic black Bentley. Anyway, one day, Mike Cheka told me, Mike Cheka's in the back seat, and Paul's driving this car, and he's had this Bentley for a couple of years. And he's picked up some hotshot guy and some guy who knows what to do with a Bentley. And it was a sunny day. It was a sunny day in California, and Paul's driving, and Mike Cheka's in the back, and this guy who's in the passenger seat pushes a button, and the convertible roof comes off the Bentley. And Paul Terasaki goes, God, I didn't know this was a convertible. Anyway, God bless Paul Terasaki, because that is exactly the kind of guy he was. Anyway, tonight's nominees for the Paul Terasaki Award are... Oh, yeah, here we go. All right, GE Healthcare, Vaso Healthcare, Umbra Health, and Rackspace for development and the implementation of the CT scan upload and communications network. The real truth of that is that when we used to do exchanges, if we did an exchange with someone on the East Coast and the donor maybe had 3 arteries and 2 veins and maybe there was a duplex ureter or something, you'd want to see the CT scan of the donor anatomy, and you'd have to actually get the CD of the CT shipped to you, and it'd have to come in mail 2 or 3 days later. Anyway, we can hardly get images from like Harbor UCLA to connect with Ronald Reagan UCLA. And somehow National Kidney Registry, I just sit at my computer and I click a damn button, and the CT scan at Cornell or in Florida or wherever it is, Freighted or something, magically pulls up. The National Kidney Registry magically has made the donor CT available instantly by just a click of a button. That's the first nominee, and it's pretty amazing. In fact, if I was a betting man, I would probably think they're going to win. But anyway, the second goes to Pat Shannon, Avi Baskin, and Jeff Veal for their theoretical mathematical approach to measure voucher payback capacity.
Are you reading that?
Yeah. That's exactly what it says. Anyway, what that is that voucher program, which I think is going to be a game changer. People are worried that when you want to redeem a voucher, there might not be a kidney available. And they're basically, it's like life insurance. They're basically doing the mathematics. It's like Uber or Airbnb. I'm going off the teleprompter here a little bit again. But it's like, they do the math behind it. That like, if you donate a kidney as a voucher, but your recipient probably won't need a kidney in 10 years or 20 years, they do the math behind it. It's very important. All right, the third nominee is Nicole Turgeon, Sharon Matthews for their leadership in creation, the comprehensive design and specifications for the automated donor intake platform, aka DASH. All right, so what DASH is that there's a lot of non-directed donors and so forth that come forward to NKR, but not all of them are appropriate donors. And this kind of vets out the ones that aren't going to actually go forward as donation. And I think it saves NKR time and the coordinator's time. Correct? Great. All right. All right. I feel like I'm at the Grammys. This year, before we get into this, look, I would like to thank Garrett, Jan, NKR. You know what? This is great. Thank you for doing this again, for giving us some time off, so we can have an excuse to party every year. Thank you. This year's Terasaki Medical Innovation Award goes to GE Health, Vaso Health Care, IT, Umbra Health, Rackspace for the development and implementation of the CT scan upload and communications network. The CT scan people, come on up and get your award.